We're starting to see the serious effects of Biden's legislation that he passed during his time in office. And the one I want to talk about today is the Inflation Reduction Act, but not the climate change portion that we talk about so much on this show. Let's talk about the drug portion, because there was an incredible piece in the Inflation Reduction Act that specifically allows Medicare, the government-run insurance program, to negotiate drug prices for the very first time. Now, what did this mean? Before this, the drug companies got to dictate what cost they were going to put onto Medicare, and Medicare was forced to pay that cost. For the first time, Medicare is going to be able to use its buying power to negotiate drug prices and bring down costs to consumers. Before I go into all these numbers, I want to give a little bit of the backstory, because this fight has been going on for way longer than we've been alive. One of Joe Biden's first bills ever supported in the Senate was in 1973, and it was to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices. That was done.
That's crazy.
He supported that bill in 1973. In 2004, John Kerry ran against George W. Bush on a platform of allowing Medicare to negotiate drug prices, and George Bush called it a price-fixing scheme. Okay? Today, here we are in 2024, and finally, Medicare is negotiating drug prices. I want to first ask you, how does that make you feel that it took us 60 years to get this basic reform done?
I'm disappointed, but at the same time, I feel that much more invigorated and proud of Joe Biden as a president.
I agree, because that means that he was able to get something done that no other president could have.
Yeah, that's wild.
No, it truly is.
Yeah.
Let's go through some of the savings.
My only other reaction is George Bush calling it a price-fixing scheme.
I know.
It's literally the opposite. Like it is preventing the price-fixing scheme of pharmaceutical companies upon the government.
You know what he might have said? He might have said government price fixing scheme. He might be okay with private.
Yeah, exactly.
He might be okay with private price fixing scheme.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that goes into this, and so far there have been 10 drugs that have been negotiated. Mm-hmm. And these 10 drugs will save $6 billion to the American consumer over the year 2026.
Yes.
Now, 4.5 billion of that is savings from the government, Medicare Part A, B, and the private insurance companies that exist in D, and 1.5 billion of that is out-of-pocket costs. $1.5 billion will be saved by seniors on out-of-pocket costs alone from just these 10 drugs being negotiated.
Yeah.
Just these first 10. So let's go down a couple of them. I'm not going to try to pronounce the drug names or anything, but for commonly treated diseases like diabetes and heart failure, okay, diabetes medication is seeing drug price reductions of up to 80%. A drug that used to cost a 30-day supply, $527, will now be $113 for that same 30-day supply. This is a prevention and treatment of blood clots. Used to be $517 for a 30-day supply. Now it's $197, a 62% reduction. Even drugs for blood cancers are going down from $15,000 to $9,000, 38% reduction.
Wow, that's amazing.
It's a lot of savings, and people are going to start feeling it right away. And
right away in 2026.
Yeah. Well, that's actually that. I'm glad you said that. This is great. We love this. This is great.
Yes.
Is the rollout too slow for anyone to care?
Oh, yes. I don't think there will be political effects. There could be, just because I feel like healthcare and healthcare prices has been the thing that the Biden-Harris administration has messaged the most, most commonly, and so people might be thinking, okay, they're always talking about this. What does it actually mean? They might get a little bit more attention on it because they've been trying to hammer it home so much.
That's a good point. The messaging on the pharmaceutical drug prices, I think, has been their strongest.
Yeah.
Right? Like their capping of insulin at $35. That's been
strong. And just the frequency. Like I feel like it's one of the first 3 policies Joe Biden mentions in every speech he gives.
Yeah, and he should, because this is a fight he's been having since the 70s.
Exactly.
And how he finally did it. He gave a speech today, and he was like, he's like, I had hair when I was when I was doing it.
It's going to be one of the last things he remembers is that is that he fixed drug pricing.
He's going to be on his deathbed, and he's going to be like, Jill, tell him I fixed Medicare. Oh man,
yeah.
And in the debate, he said he's like, we finally beat Medicare. He meant to say we finally beat Big Pharma. That's what he meant to say. But now, glad he's not running for president anymore. Thank you, Joe. We love you, but go home. It's time. It's time. I want to talk now about Trump's response to this. Because Donald Trump ran in 2016 and 2020 talking about high prescription drug costs. And the truth is, he really didn't do much. He tried to do some executive order things around insulin, but they all ended up failing. And he never fully endorsed the plan of Medicare negotiating drug prices, ever. And no Republican in the Senate or House voted for the IRA, which was the bill that allowed Medicare to negotiate. So now when Trump gets asked about pharmaceutical products and stuff, how do you think he's going to respond? I mean, obviously I think he's going to lie, but like, does he have anything to come back with?
I would have done it much better.
Oh, I forgot about that.
I would have gotten much bigger savings.
Oh, I forgot. Right.
Maybe, but I almost lying seems like the more likely course of action to me, just because I'm skeptical that he'll understand exactly what's going on here.
That's so true.
Which is like, I don't know, I just dunked on Trump, but I just don't believe this is the type of almost technical policy with a bit more hidden mechanisms, or more complex mechanisms that I feel like he doesn't think is in his interest to really understand.
I agree.
And come back against.
I think one of the things Trump focuses on, I don't want to turn this into a Trump segment either, but one of the things that I think Trump focuses on is what gets the crowd riled up.
Yeah.
And maybe, just maybe, the intricate details of pharmaceutical price negotiation doesn't get the crowd to cheer the same way that, the brown people are stealing your jobs does.
Yeah, and that makes it rings true to me, because all the reporting that we've gotten on the new Kamala rallies is that the energy is super high. People are going crazy. People are super excited. And she mentions pricing for Medicare drugs. But again, for Joe Biden, it was always one of his number one things. And the energy at those rallies was always basically dead. It's like, please save us from the big bad orange man.
Yeah, I know.
So maybe it's just not the same crowd pleaser.
Sure. This isn't the end of the story, though, guys. These 10 drugs have now been negotiated, and their prices will come down. But 15 drugs have been selected already to begin negotiation on February 1st.
Yeah.
And those new prices will take into effect in 2027.
Yes.
So we are on the way of getting 25 new products that are going to have their costs rapidly reduced.
Yes.
Significantly reduced. And it's gonna save the government a lot of money. It's gonna keep Medicare solvent for a longer period of time.
Yeah.
Because Medicare is gonna have to pay out less for the same amount of treatment. The American taxpayer and the American out-of-pocket consumer for drug costs, you're just going to be better off.
Yeah.
And this is it's a great policy.
Just the one other thing I want to be clear about is this battle should not be over. These 25 drugs are going to be still a very small percentage of all of the drugs that Medicare pays for. The government should be able to negotiate for all of those drugs to reduce costs for the government and for the people who are paying out of pocket as much as possible. So this is a political battle that I think it would be certainly in the best interest of the country to continue.
And like we talk about we did a segment earlier this week on permitting reform, and we talked about how the permitting reform legislation would be different and it would be applied differently under a Republican president and a Democratic president. I think this goes the same. I think if you had a negotiating team that was staffed by a Republican president, they would not be so quick with the rollout. Right?
You don't think so?
I mean, I'm speculating. But I'm basically suggesting that a party that didn't vote for the legislation won't be as excited or ambitious in getting the price negotiations going the same way.
I disagree.
You disagree?
Yeah. I think this is the perfect, having lower drug prices is not a policy that is owned by either party. It's more the type of thing that who's ever in charge will take advantage or will take the credit for.
Yeah, sure.
Right. And I think Republicans would like the credit for this as much as Democrats would.
I love that mindset because that means that the conservative lost the policy battle.
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
That means that they lost the policy battle. Now, and now we're down to the point where it's like it's a good idea when I do it, bad idea when you do it.
Totally.
But the same thing ends up happening at the end, which I hope America gets to that point.
Yeah, I mean, on the economic populism side, like the Republicans are there in many ways, and I think they wouldn't shy away from this.
Yeah.